Imagine stepping out of your building, just calling your next rideshare. The app shows the route on your phone, the headlights blink on as the car pulls up to the curb. But when you open the door and look up front, the driver's seat is completely empty.
Yeah, that's wild.
There's literally no one there. The steering wheel is just moving on its own. And I feel like for a long time, that specific image was just this, I don't know, this sci-fi promise that was somehow always sitting exactly 5 years in the future. But today, that exact scenario just got a $10 billion endorsement.
It really did. It is a massive financial stake planted directly into physical reality. We are looking at a deployment of capital that, frankly, it completely reframes where the technology is heading, taking it off the server racks and putting it right onto the pavement.
Right, and that physical reality, that is our mission for today's deep dive. We are officially calling this Embodiment Week.
I love that title.
Because we are watching artificial intelligence officially escape the digital screen and enter our physical streets, our factories, our daily commutes. So today, we're unpacking a pretty heavy stack of sources. We've got strategic corporate announcements from today, April 17th, 2026, some fresh robotics research, highly volatile geopolitical updates, and live prediction market data. We are looking at exactly how these shifts are going to actively change the physical world you walk around in.
What's fascinating here is that we are witnessing a massive structural divergence in the industry right now.
Okay, how so?
Well, on one hand, AI is finally getting a physical body in the real world. But simultaneously, the digital models themselves, like the minds of these systems, they are radically splintering into highly specialized tools. So the era of the single monolithic AI that, tries to do everything for everyone, that's quietly ending, just as the era of the autonomous physical robot is really beginning.
Let's start with the physical bodies then. Because if AI is actually going to interact with us in the real world, bringing us our groceries, driving us to work, it needs a completely new type of brain and obviously the hardware to house it.
Exactly.
And to scale that up, you need massive capital. And the capital part of that equation just arrived in a very big way. Uber just committed $10 billion to a robotaxi strategy spanning equity investments and massive fleet orders.
Huge move.
It is. It's like building the Transcontinental Railroad. It's an infrastructure pivot. But, I have to be honest, I look at this $10 billion number from Uber and I kind of don't get it.
Why not?
Well, we've been promised self-driving cars for a decade. The industry is famous for over-promising and under-delivering. Okay, let's unpack this. What is fundamentally changing right now to justify Uber throwing this kind of earth-shattering money at this problem today?
Right. So the hesitation is completely warranted given the history of autonomous driving. It's been a long road. But what justifies the capital today is a fundamental breakthrough in a concept called generalization.
Generalization, okay.
Yeah. Up until very recently, to get a robot or a car to do something, you had to explicitly train it for that exact scenario. You were essentially hard-coding rules for every possible edge case.
Like, if you see a stop sign, do this.
Exactly. If you see a pedestrian, do that.
Yeah.
But the real physical world is way too messy for hard-coded rules.
Right, because there's always going to be, I don't know, a construction cone placed upside down in some weird spot or a kid chasing a balloon into the street.
Yeah.
You just can't script chaos.
You can't. And that is the exact bottleneck the industry hit for years. And that actually brings us to the breakthrough from physical intelligence.
The new model.
Right. They just announced a new model called Pi 0.7. The researchers are calling it an early sign of generalization in robotic AI. And to understand how massive this is, we have to look at the mechanism. Because instead of feeding the AI thousands of scripts about how to move, they just put the model into a massive virtual sandbox.
Wait, like a video game?
Basically, yeah. They had it run millions of simulated physical interactions. Dropping things, bumping into things, moving through simulated gravity.
Oh, wow. So it's developing like physical common sense. It's learning how momentum and gravity actually feel in a virtual environment before it ever even touches a real machine.
That's the core of it. What this means is that they can now direct robots to perform physical tasks that the robots were never explicitly trained on.
Because it just knows how physics works.
Yes. The AI is taking that generalized understanding of space and movement and applying it to a completely novel situation on the fly. It's literally improvising.
Okay, that actually makes the Uber investment make sense. If the cars can improvise rather than relying on pre-mapped scripts, they can actually navigate a chaotic city.
Exactly.
And we are seeing this exact concept validated across our source stack today. Look at Boston Dynamics. They just pushed a major update for their Spot quadruped robot, the famous yellow robot dog.
Oh, yes.
Spot just gained autonomous inspection capabilities. It can walk through a facility, navigate the physical space, and conduct inspections without any direct human control. It's completely untethered. It's an agent making its own physical decisions.
But here's the thing. To make those decisions, these robots need to actually see their environment with incredible precision.
Right.
They need to understand that a shadow isn't a solid object, or that a puddle might be slippery. But a robot dog or a car, it can't carry a massive data center on its back to process all that visual data.
Which brings us to a really interesting piece of research from the Quinn team. They just released a new open-source vision language model. Our sources call it the Quinn 3.635B model.
A bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, definitely. But wait, before we get into what it does, the source specifically describes it as a sparse mixture of experts model with agentic coding capabilities. For those of us not building neural networks in our basements, what does that actually mean in practice?
Let's demystify the jargon. So imagine a traditional AI model as a massive team of researchers where every time you ask a single question, all 100,000 people in the room have to wake up, listen, and try to answer.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. It requires a huge amount of energy and computing power. But a sparse mixture of experts model, that works more like a specialized firm.
Okay.
When a question comes in, the system acts like a receptionist and routes the query only to the specific 2 or 3 experts within the model who actually know how to solve it. The rest of the system stays dormant.
Oh, I see. So it's essentially conserving energy. It only powers up the parts of its brain that it actually needs for that specific second.
Yes, exactly. That's why this Quinn model only uses 3 billion active parameters at any given time, which is incredibly tiny and efficient compared to the massive trillion parameter models sitting in server farms.
And the agentic part.
That simply means it doesn't just answer questions. It can take action. It can write code to solve a problem and then execute that code itself.
So if we tie this back to the physical robots, this is like the lightweight visual cortex they've been waiting for.
Precise.
You put an efficient agentic model like this inside a robot, and suddenly it can process visual data from its cameras and make decisions without draining its battery in 10 minutes.
It is the missing puzzle piece for embodiment. You have the capital from Uber, the physical improvisation from physical intelligence, and the lightweight visual processing from open-source models like Quinn.
That paints a very clear picture of how AI is entering the physical world. But as these models gain physical bodies and learn to generalize out there in the real world, their digital minds are going in the exact opposite direction.
They really are.
Because the era of the monolithic one-size-fits-all model that, writes your emails, codes your software, and analyzes your medical scans all at once, that era is ending.
It is a fascinating structural pivot. The industry is realizing that a jack-of-all-trades model is basically a master of none.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the perfect case study for this splintering is OpenAI's latest move. On the exact same day, they released 2 fundamentally different systems, Codex and GPT-Rosalind.
Right.
Let's break these down, starting with Codex. Our sources describe it as evolving way beyond basic code generation. They are framing it as a super app-style offering. It handles coding, sure, but also everyday queries and complex multi-step workflows.
Yeah, the best way to understand Codex is not as a simple tool, but as a digital general contractor.
Okay, a general contractor.
Yeah, if you are sitting at a desk trying to orchestrate a complex project, Codex knows how to read your email, draft a plan, write the code to execute that plan, and test it. It's hiring the right subroutines to get your office work done. It's the ultimate productivity engine.
But then, released alongside it, you have GPT-Rosalind, and Rosalind couldn't be more different. The sources indicate it is strictly dedicated to life sciences.
Completely different beast.
It's designed for researchers in biology and chemistry to provide actionable insights from large-scale data analysis. It's not trying to write your marketing emails or schedule your meetings. It's trying to help you understand molecular structures.
And the trade-off there is entirely intentional. Rosalind is the domain-specific lab genius. To get an AI to truly understand complex biochemistry, you have to feed it specialized training data, tweak the architecture, and set very specific safety guardrails.
Makes sense.
But those optimizations fundamentally conflict with the optimizations needed to make a good office assistant. You literally can't optimize a single neural network for both at the highest level of performance. So they split them. Codex for the desk, Rosalind for the lab.
I have to push back on this, though. Look at the history of these AI labs. Wasn't their original stated mission to build artificial general intelligence, AGI?
Right.
Like a single, all-knowing superintelligence that could outperform humans at economically valuable work?
Yeah.
Does this splintering, this pivot to specialized tools like Rosalind, does that mean the AGI dream is just dead?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the definition of the dream is what's changing.
Okay.
We are moving away from the concept of a single, godlike oracle that sits in a server and knows everything. Instead, we are moving toward what researchers call a society of minds. You have specialized experts like Rosalind, physical agents running on Pi 0.7, and workflow orchestrators like Codex, all communicating with each other across a network.
But wait, if they are all separate experts, who is the CEO? Like, if I ask a highly complex question that requires both biochemistry and physical robotics, who routes it? Doesn't a society of minds still require an overarching AGI to manage all the specialists?
That is the critical tension in the field right now.
Yes.
Who is the conductor of the orchestra? What we're likely to see is that the AGI isn't a standalone model, but rather an orchestration layer.
An orchestration layer.
Yeah, it will be a highly efficient routing system that doesn't actually know how to cure a disease or drive a car itself, but it knows exactly which specialized model to call to get the job done and how to synthesize their answers. The intelligence emerges from the network, not from a single node.
That actually makes a lot of sense. It operates like a hospital. The person at the front desk isn't performing neurosurgery, but the system works because the intake coordinator knows exactly which specialist you need to see.
Exactly, and that coordination is vital, especially when you consider the environment these systems are entering.
Right. We're talking about deploying $10 billion autonomous fleets and highly capable life science agents into the real world. But the real world right now is incredibly unstable.
Very.
If we look at today's sources from April 17th, 2026, the geopolitical landscape is intense. Now, before we dive into this, I want to be crystal clear with you, the listener. We are going to cover some politically charged updates right now.
Just reporting the facts.
Exactly. We are strictly and impartially reporting on the facts as presented in today's sources to establish the market conditions. We are not taking sides, and we are not endorsing the viewpoints of any political figures or factions mentioned.
Because understanding the macro environment is essential. These technologies don't deploy in a vacuum. They deploy into markets driven by human sentiment and global stability.
So here's a snapshot of the global stage today. Israel and Lebanon have officially activated a 10-day ceasefire, marking the first formal truce since the current conflict escalated, with the UN Secretary General calling for full compliance to pave the way for negotiations.
Wow.
Meanwhile, President Trump signaled optimism about an ongoing U.S.-Iran nuclear deal, stating it's looking very good, though officials caution it will take months to finalize. And domestically in the U.S., we are seeing significant friction at the highest levels of government. House Democrats have introduced articles of impeachment against Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. This follows Pentagon naval strikes in the Eastern Pacific targeting alleged drug vessels, which resulted in at least 178 deaths.
That's a massive story.
It is. The core of the pushback involves international legal experts and human rights groups challenging the international legality of campaign, characterizing the strikes as extrajudicial killings.
And it doesn't stop there.
No, globally, the volatility just continues. There is tragic news out of Turkey, where a 14-year-old opened fire in a middle school, killing at least 9 people. And in New Zealand, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon is battling leadership coup reports as his party's support falls below 30%. It is a heavy, fragmented, and highly volatile global picture.
It really is.
And the financial markets are reacting to this dissonance. The S&P and NASDAQ are up slightly, but the overall market sentiment gauge is officially listed as extreme fear. Oil is down nearly 7%, dropping to $91 a barrel.
So this raises an important question.
Yeah.
How does the technology sector relentlessly push forward with massive $10 billion bets and highly advanced models when the actual environment they are deploying into is categorized by extreme fear and intense regulatory scrutiny?
Because you can't just throw an experimental AI into a volatile, fearful market and hope for the best.
No, you absolutely can't.
You have to build bridges of trust. You need infrastructure that completely insulates the technology from the regulatory risk. And that brings us to a product in today's stack called Astra.
Astra.
Yeah, Astra is a zero-exposure AI pipeline. In a world obsessed with data privacy, compliance, and risk, Astra is the tool that actually allows highly regulated industries to use AI in the first place.
And the specific types of data Astra protects are vital here. Our sources highlight that it targets PII, that's personally identifiable information like your name and medical records, and PCI, which is payment card industry data like your credit card numbers.
I kind of picture Astra like a glass prism.
Oh, I like that.
Like if a hospital wants to use an AI to analyze your health records, your data goes in, and before it ever hits the AI model, it passes through this prism that scrambles it into abstract, unreadable blue tokens.
Right.
The AI processes those blue tokens, does its complex math, and sends a result back. Then, on the way out, the prism translates it back into your original data. The AI never actually saw the raw, sensitive information. But wait, to go a layer deeper on the how can an AI model do complex medical or financial math if all it sees are scrambled blue tokens? Doesn't it need to know what the numbers actually mean?
That is the genius of the mechanism behind your prism metaphor. It uses advanced cryptographic techniques, concepts similar to homomorphic encryption.
Homomorphic encryption?
Yeah. It essentially preserves the mathematical relationships between the data points without revealing the data itself. So the AI can still recognize patterns. It can see that token A and token B interact in a way that suggests a tumor, without ever knowing that token A belongs to John Smith.
That's incredible. And integration apparently takes just 2 lines of code. So if you want to deploy a specialized model like GPT-Rosalind in a massive hospital system, or use AI agents in financial services where extreme fear and compliance rule the day, tools like Astra are the invisible armor making the specialized AI revolution legally and practically possible.
Exactly. It allows the innovation to proceed regardless of the geopolitical or regulatory volatility going on in the background. And speaking of how the market is anticipating this innovation, the prediction markets give us a very clear picture of what people are willing to bet real money on next.
Oh, right. Let's check in on manifold markets. The traders are putting their money where their mouth is regarding the next major model releases. GPT 5.5 is now priced at an overwhelming 94% probability for an April release.
94%.
That is a massive level of confidence.
It really is. And the contrast is jarring when you look at the competition.
Oh, Anthropic.
Yeah, Anthropic's rumored Claude Mythos model, which was heavily hyped as a massive 10 trillion parameter system, has seen its odds of an April release completely collapse down to just 1.7%.
Wow.
The market has totally lost faith in that immediate timeline, shifting its expectations entirely to OpenAI.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's synthesize everything we've unpacked today. This week, the narrative of the AI industry fundamentally shifted. We aren't just talking about abstract parameter counts or chatbots anymore.
No, we're not.
AI is actively taking physical form, with Uber's massive capital deployment and physical intelligence cracking the code on robotic generalization through virtual physics sandboxes. The infrastructure of your daily commute and the supply chains of your physical world are about to change.
And digitally, the tools you use are fracturing into highly optimized specialists. You aren't going to have one AI assistant. You're going to interact with a society of minds. A general contractor like Codex orchestrating your workflows, a lab genius like Rosalind for complex research, and zero-exposure pipelines like Astra keeping your personal data completely shielded.
Which leaves us with one final fascinating thread to pull on.
What's that?
Well, if AI is branching out into generalized robotic bodies in the physical world and simultaneously developing highly specialized, genius-level scientific minds like GPT-Rosalind in the digital world, what happens when those two eventually merge?
Oh, wow.
What does a specialized life sciences AI housed inside a generalized autonomous robotic body look like navigating the hallways of your local hospital or pharmacy 5 years from now?
It's an incredible convergence to imagine. The physical capability to move through a chaotic emergency room, paired with the deep domain-specific knowledge to analyze a biochemical crisis on the spot. That is the ultimate destination of Embodiment Week.
It changes everything. The next time you call a rideshare and that car pulls up and you see that empty driver's seat, don't just see an empty space. See the $10 billion of capital, the generalization breakthroughs that let it understand physics, and the splintering of digital minds that made that empty seat possible. The future isn't just trapped on your screen anymore, it's pulling up to the curb. Thank you for joining us as we explore today's deep dive. Keep your eyes open because the physical world is changing fast. We'll catch you next time.